Carlos, I sent a hello on the chat. Did that come through to you?
I got it.
Yep.
Got it. All right, perfect. All right, then we are good to go. We still have about a minute and a half till showtime.
All right.
Hey,
And
Carliss,
I do.
go ahead.
It'll be exactly an hour. Like they kick us
an
out
hour?
at like 11:57. Like it's exact.
Okay.
So, because it's airing live, and then I also stream it. And then after it airs live on the network, it then goes on like Spotify and Apple Podcasts and stuff. And then I will send you a video. So your marketing people can cut it up and stuff however they want to.
Oh, cool. All right.
Yeah. So it ends up generating lots of content for folks.
Nice. I'm just wondering, with this light coming in behind me.
It actually looks good. You look all like you've got a little halo. So,
a glow.
Yeah, you're glistening.
Glowing. That's dope. Not how I feel today.
I never feel that way anymore. I'm just,
Yeah, it's crazy. Ugh. So I imagine you got a whole little, so we're gonna just run through it, huh?
Ish. I mean, it ends up being more conversational. So the biggest thing is, he tells me when I have to shut up. So yeah. So they generally, I think we have to be kicked out at 11:57, and it starts like he'll play the promo music around 11:03.
Okay, cool. Only thing that might happen during this is I was kind of waiting. I mean, the housekeeper might ring the doorbell. Is that going to be a problem?
Nah, and they edit it out.
Okay.
Yeah, cool. They edit it out in post.
Okay. I just have the back door left open so I'm not going to get up, but I hope that doesn't mean that she won't bang, 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 and stuff like that. And if it does, I just have to literally hop and just tell her, like, come around.
Come in. Yeah, that's cool.
Okay.
All right, we are here at Showtime. I'm going to go ahead and send the feed your way. All right, have a good show.
All right.
Thank you.
Welcome to Getting Common with Professor Carliss Chatman. Getting Common covers a variety of topics and features guests from business, law, politics, government, education, and some of the most insightful entrepreneurs. It's a refreshing, common sense approach to some of the most important discussion points today. Now, here is your host, Carliss Chatman.
Hello, everyone. I'm Carliss Chatman, and I am your host of Getting Common. In my day job, I'm an associate professor of law at Washington and Lee. Today, I am very excited to launch our Entrepreneurship Series, and I'll be highlighting Ben Williams of Highway Vodka. Highway Vodka is a Houston-based distillery that uses a mash comprised of a unique strain of hemp, locally sourced corn, and water from their artisan aquifer. Now, let's get into the discussion. Now, Ben, I gave a brief introduction of you and your company, but I'd love to hear how you introduce yourself and explain what Highway Vodka is about.
Thank you so much for having me on. Yeah, that's an interesting question. How would I introduce myself? I don't know, but as far as Highway Vodka goes, basically it was just something that started off as a hobby of mine, about 9 years ago now. I, own some bars and restaurants here in Houston, and it just became a hobby. I just got interested into distilling, and I just started reading books and watching every kind of YouTube video I could find, and bought a little still. And my business partner, long lifetime friend of mine, he had a horse barn. So we went and set the still up over there, and we would just sit around and do runs in our free time and stuff like that. So, it was just hanging out and like with a hobby, Then started to make about a couple of years into it, started kind of learning, really knowing what we were doing a little bit, letting people taste things. I'd go to the bar, restaurants and stuff and let my regulars taste stuff that we were making. And, some of the stuff was horrible. Well, a lot of it was actually. And, but, some of it was cool. But around that same time, a friend of mine opened a dispensary in California. So I rolled out there to check it out, see what he was doing. He introduced me to some friends that were doing some distilling with marijuana. And I knew enough about the process at that time to see some cool things about, what was happening during the process. So when I got back home to Houston, I, obviously I couldn't play with that type of plant, but I started messing with hemp because that was the only thing I could get in Texas, in Houston. So I just started just experimenting, like all types of forms of the plant, everything from flower to herd to shelled seed to everything. And with most times, like everything else, it's always the stuff that's right in front of you that works. And I was at Whole Foods or one of these stores and got some, whole hemp seed that you would like put in your oatmeal or whatever, right? Or your smoothies. And it worked. It was like the best thing that we had ever made, right? Like to that point, just whole hemp seed, corn, and water, and that was it. And then so from there, once I passed that around a little bit and people liked it, so then it was like, okay, let's just play with this because this is our thing, or whatever. And it just kept going from there and there. Years go by. Finally kind of start getting really confidence in the product and say, hey, I think I'm gonna try this. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's try. And the coolest thing I will say about that moment was not knowing how hard it was gonna be. Because had I known all the just the trials and tribulations that trying to enter this industry would have caused, I might have just been like, nah. But because it was just fun and what do I know, just kind of kept going along, and there were some very large barriers of entry in the beginning, like to even apply for the permit to do it, you have to already have your property in place. Like you have to either have it leased and approved by the government that this site will work before you even apply for your permit. So it took us 2.5 years, like almost 3 years to get our permit because of the hemp and all that. And they didn't really know what to do with it and all this kind of stuff. So imagine if you had to sit there and pay a lease on somewhere, not even knowing if you're going to get a permit to actually operate. You know what I'm saying? And so that was really amazing. But anyway, like I said, since we had that property and the barn got approved, which ultimately became the site of our distillery, we retrofitted and just built out a distillery inside of there. It made it a little bit easier. And like, it was still just hobbying along the way, waiting for the permits. And then, lo and behold, about 3 years later, we got it and off to the races,
Wow. Now, this is not your first rodeo, as they say, and it's rodeo season in Houston. So I feel like I can throw that out, but because you've been an entrepreneur forever, right? Like, I remember the last time we met, you basically said you've never worked for anyone. So can you tell us a little bit about like, your history of entrepreneurship and all the other businesses you own? And feel free to drop names, right? We're here to promote you and your efforts.
Well, when I first got out of school, I always like doing parties and stuff like that and concerts. So, I was doing that. I started a janitorial services company. Right out of school, I was doing I was volunteering at this program with the Urban League here in Houston for like some kind of, I can't remember the title of it. It was so long ago, but some kind of youth program or whatever. And they mentioned how they were getting a new building and they were going to be taking bids out for this, and this. And the lady kind of told me about, well, she was actually the head of the Urban League Houston at the time. She told me that, hey, if you get your stuff together, you could bid on one of these contracts or whatever, just messing with me and stuff. And I was like, janitorial, sir, that doesn't sound hard, And so I don't know. I just put this bid together and I looked into it. I did some research or whatever. And boom, I got the bid. I underbid it so bad. That's how I got their attention. And they were just like, hey, your bid was like lower than everybody submitted by probably like 300%. And they were like, but you need to tweak it, make sure you're right, and then hey, we'll give you a shot. And so boom, started from there and went from there. And then so started doing that, like cleaning toilets, literally. Right from there into my kind of first restaurant experience. partnered up, well, got into with these guys with this restaurant, Fusion Cafe. That was a big thing down here in Houston. But learned a valuable lesson, too many chiefs. When you got a whole bunch of people investing into something, like everybody wants to be a boss, everybody wants to come in there and drink for free and do whatever. And, but very few people are about the work of the business, and so that failed. And then, so after that, I went with my mother, founded a school like 30 years ago, private school. It's called the Amani School. And one day she called me to help her with some things, because I really like systems. I really like putting systems in place, and setting things up like that, so that things can kind of run itself. You know what I mean? And so she wanted me to come over and help her, put some systems in place at the school. And so I did that and ended up kind of falling in love with the school. And I still have my janitorial service company, and I'm still doing, concerts and blah, blah, blah. But I really I love the school, love the kids. And, so I stayed there for like a long time. And then all the way up until about 2010, when I decided to, my brother came back from Europe. He's a chef, and he used to work with us at the first restaurant. So like he came back, and if I'm dragging, tell me, because I'm just kind of like going out. But anyway, so like, yeah, so he came back from Europe. He left the restaurant that we, that failed. He went straight to Europe, like on some backpack kind of stuff, and just went all around, because he's a chef, so he could work anywhere in the world. Did that. He came back and he found the property for what's now Lucille's, the restaurant that's a tribute to our great grandmother, who's, real famous caterer and chef back in the day. She did a ton of first. I mean, that'd be a whole nother conversation, just talking about her and her history and stuff like that. But yeah, so we started Lucille's. And, it kind of just took off. And that was at the same time, actually, around the time that I started distilling as a hobby. And from there, opened up a couple other places or whatever. And then now, fast forward to COVID, the distillery is open, but we also started around COVID time, Lucille's 1913, which is a nonprofit that deals with food insecurity. And to date, we've probably done, gosh, I should know these numbers, but I can't remember the exact number, but it's approaching like 600,000 meals that we've donated out to, food insecure neighborhoods and people, and primarily focusing on like elderly people that during COVID were like just really like on an island, a desert island kind of, scared to go to the stores, blah, blah, blah. Don't want kids coming in. So really just kind of out there. So we just made sure that those people had like, at least one solid meal a day. We were doing things like when the freeze hit down here and knocked off water for everybody. Well, the distillery sits on a well. And so we have, all this filtration equipment and stuff like that. So the distillery, we started packaging up water in our 1 liter bottles and donating that. And we did like, I don't know, like 15,000 liters of water, So that's the cool thing about everything that, that everything, that we've done has worked out, so far, pretty cool. And so we're able to do things like that and getting really engaged in the community on some real cool stuff, and helping out where we can with the resources that are available to us. So we just purchased a 100,000 square foot building, and it's called the Community Collective. And that's going to be a multi-use place where we're going to have, business incubator in there. We also, the Amani School is on one side. And then we're also have like a theater component in the middle, for programming in that space, and events and all that stuff. So that's really exciting too. And that just completed in December. And man, I tell you, and you just gotta be careful what you ask for sometimes. You get it and you're just like, whoa, it's a lot of work, And then back to Highway, why we are here. The cool thing about Highway is that now we're in process of partnering with a very nice, great company to help Highway go, nationally and really globally with the distribution and stuff. So it's just a lot of great things going on right now. I'm very happy and thankful for it all. But like I say, like, one thing I've noticed about everything is that, like, okay, so you work very hard to get to this point, right? And then take Highway. You work very hard to get to this point, and then all of a sudden, oh man, this is the opportunity you've been waiting for. We're about to go national. That's dope. And then it sinks in on you like, oh my God, you think you've worked to this point. Now the work goes into a different level. And so sometimes you just sit there, and that's why, like, things become sayings like small victories. You better take a moment to celebrate the small victories, because the work doesn't stop. You know what I'm saying? Like, in fact, it just gets bigger. The more you accomplish, the bigger the work. Like with that building, worked on that for like 4 years, trying to work on that deal. Finally got it. I'll never forget, I got the phone call like 10 o'clock at night. Hey, the finance is going through, it's cool. I was like, yeah, done. No, you're not done, because now you got to keep it. So you got to get immediately on all the renovations, blah, 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 blah. And I mean, it's just like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I thought I could chill. Now I did it. No, you haven't done anything except give yourself more stuff to do, So, I mean, like, but yeah, so that's kind of like a rundown of all the different stuff that I'm kind of involved in,
So, what I find interesting about that is, one, you just keep going and going and going and adding more businesses to the profile. But I love what you said about the work doesn't stop, because I think that some people think I'll start a business and that's going to be easier than punching a clock and having a 9 to 5, right? It's going to be easier. So, I would love to hear about, what motivates you to keep going? What motivates you to not just say, you know what, I'm just going to like throw in a job application and stop doing all this extra work.
You know what's interesting about that? There are days when I'm, and no disrespect to anybody in these fields or whatever, but sometimes I just be like, man, I just want to be like, I just want to, I don't know, like be a postman or something that's very like, 9 to 5. When I'm off, I'm off. Because there is no off. There's no off. You know what I'm saying? Like, my phone never turns off. Why? Because I don't know. Over the years I've been trained, your phone could ring at 3 o'clock. Building got broken into, or the restaurant got broken, or this or that, or this is on fire, or something like that, or somebody out there that works for you is calling in at 3 a.m. saying they're not going to make it, and they're supposed to be there at 6. And it's a ton of stuff, and that sometimes gets very draining, like, because you're never really separated from your work. And then I work a lot with my family. So, like, my brother, oh, by the way, my brother just got nominated for a James Beard Award. I had to mention that.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Yeah.
And you should probably say what your brother's name is.
Oh yeah, Chris
Yes.
Williams. Chris Williams. Yeah, he's now you can Google that dude and he just pops up all over the place. Yeah, so yeah, but you're never off, and like and with family. And so like for instance, we just came back from a family vacation last week. My parents, both of my brothers, my older brother, Chris is my younger brother. My older brother, Brian Williams, he operates Step Africa, which is like actually like the second largest Black dance company in the country, right behind Alvin Ailey. And he's been doing it for like 25 years. So he's, it's a very successful dance company. And so what happens is that we're sitting around, supposedly on vacation, but the conversation is just a lot of work stuff. You know what I'm saying? And so sometimes I'm always when I'm like, hey, like, no, you know what I'm saying? Like, no, like, we're over at my parents' house watching football or something on a Sunday. And then, somebody kind of start, my mom will say something or whatever. I'd be like, hey, we're watching football. That's what we're here to do today. You know what I'm saying? Like, but it's cool. On the flip side of it, it's doing stuff that you love, and, the benefit the benefits are amazing. Cause like I said, I'm at home right now. You know what I'm saying? When I could have to been somewhere at 8 o'clock or whatever. So having that flexibility to move at your own speed, you know.
Oh, you muted yourself.
Worth, it's that's the beautiful part. And to basically though, just to do what you enjoy doing, and you get to create, you're creative. So like, things that you have just rummaging around in your head, little stupid ideas, you actually can make them tangible and play with them and grow them and just do that. I mean, that is priceless.
Absolutely. Now, I'd love to talk a little bit more about actual Highway Vodka and what makes it special. Now, you mentioned putting hemp in the mash and that you went out to Cali and you tested some of the vodkas that have marijuana in the mash. Why hemp? And, what's the difference between putting hemp in and putting marijuana in?
Oh, well, first of all, so marijuana has THC, hemp does not. So period, point blank. But like, yeah, so like, I learned over many years about, the benefits of the hemp, right? At first, it was purely because, and I had no idea why at the time, but just from that first run that we did with hemp seed, corn, and water, the taste was like, oh, that was the best stuff we had made. I don't know. We just hit something there that was better than anything that we had done. And so we were like, ooh, let's just focus in on this. So subsequently after that, I started finding out like different things that were happening in the process, right? So you start from the very beginning, you have a mash bill of hemp, corn, and water, boom. Basically, you just boil it up in a big pot, then you throw it into a fermenter to sit for about a week and a half, where to convert the sugars into alcohol, right? Put your yeast on top. What I found is that hemp is a super nutrient for yeast. So my yields of alcohol get larger, right? So that was interesting, right? Because I was like, man, we're getting more alcohol than we ever normally get. And so after then this is over years and stuff, you know what I mean? And then, so that was one thing. Number two, oils form during the fermentation process from the hemp seed that initially look kind of nasty, because it kind of, like when you open up your fermenter, it kind of looks like olive oil layered on top of oatmeal. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And with water in between, with this brown liquid in between or whatever. So what you do is there's a process called racking. And so like you like siphon the liquid from in between the grain and the oil, because we didn't want to, it was just like, you know what I mean? But then, and so we were still getting a great product. But then one day, being lazy, just was like, I don't feel like racking the liquid out from in the middle. And he didn't either. So he's like, let's just dump it all in there and see what happens. So we dumped in the oil, the liquid, and the grain, right? Boom. Best stuff we had ever made to that point, right? So stayed doing that. And then you come to find out that those oils float on top of the still and kind of act as like a first layer of filtration for the vapors as they rise from, the kettle, and they start going through the distillation process, their fractionary column, hitting the plates and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so in that oil, and then also by distilling it only 6 times, it changed the viscosity of the liquid. So it got like a little bit more body to it, right? Then our collection methods. So again, this was just a hobby. So there in distilling, there's 4 parts that come out of the still. They're the foreshots, the heads, the hearts, and the tails. You're not supposed to drink the foreshots or the heads. That's that whole moonshine blindness thing. And they all boil off at different temperature ranges, right? So, but we only were collecting the hearts, which are the purest part of the run, right? You could blend in the tails, but often that's where the headache lies, is in the tails. But if you're about your business and you're trying to get every ounce of drinkable alcohol, people will blend those tails into it because they don't want to waste them or rerun them or all that stuff, because you're trying to maximize your yield. But we were just doing it for us, so we didn't need the tails, right? And so it never really got into figuring out what's the right ratio to blend in the tails to still make, whatever, right? So that's why you also see on the bottle of Highway, it says all hearts, no tails, because that's what we use. And so anyway, so you do that, you realize, 6 times distilled, only keeping the hearts, comes out the other end, then you have to filter it, right? And so we built our own filters because when we were doing it as a hobby, I was just using a Brita. But when we started scaling up to actually do it as a business, filtration equipment is like very expensive, stuff like that. And then you can't really have the kind of control of the media that you want, your filtration media that you would want to have, right? By buying this other stuff. So I went around and I went to a water plant and I found this cool guy. He sat there and helped me figure out like what's in a Brita and these different materials and stuff. And he sold them all and he sold them to me. Went back to the distillery. We kind of cobbled together this little system with pipes and tri-clamps and all this stuff. And, kind of came up with our own filtration media load, I guess you would call it, so that we could control our own flow rates and stuff like that of the liquid passing through the filtration process to really dial it in so that we could take out what we want and leave what we want in the final product, right? So that's just a big thing, because the biggest thing about Highway is, and it goes back to the hemp, is that viscosity difference, and those oils that are left in that product add whole flavor on your palate, right? So that's why you're able to get some of the nuance and the sweetness from the corn and stuff like that, number one. Number two, it also takes off the burn, makes it very smooth going down. Because that was one thing when I would always be doing blind taste tests. And I would do them all the time, and it kept winning, right? And then everybody wanted to taste it neat. Nobody drinks vodka neat, typically. And then but that's how they want to do it. And that was the best test, because it helped me gauge it, the recipe, and dial it in to where when I had like a bar full of women and they want to taste it, and I'm just like, I let them, taste the product neat. This is way before we were, had a perm, were out. And they would taste a room temperature shot of vodka and their face wouldn't curl. Instead, they'd be like, like that. I was like, yo, that's dope. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's what it was just about, trying to keep that. And that's what the hemp does. And it also gave me a differentiating factor in a very, very crowded space. Man, I went to Total Wine the other day for a meeting, and I don't know why, it just hit me for the first time, like the fact that we're even alive, like 3 years from now in this space is something. Because I walked in that store and it just hit me like, what other industry, well, there's plenty, but like, it's interesting about this industry where you walk into where your product is and you have every single competitor in your industry in there, in that store. Thousands of products, thousands of dreams, thousands of people's blood, sweat, and tears and hopes, and kids' tuition money and everything, is all on these shelves, right? And I'm just trying to equate that to other businesses that I was involved. That'd be like if every restaurant in Houston was all in like one, section. That's it. The big ones, the small ones, everything is over here. You know what I'm saying? And so it's very daunting sometimes, but we're doing it. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know what led me off of that tangent, but differentiating factor.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's kind of cool to be in that space, because I tell you, like, if it weren't for the hemp and I was just doing like your standard, I don't know, wheat vodka or potato or whatever the deal is, right? I probably wouldn't have thought there was enough there to go for it. You know what I'm saying? But then as we were doing it, I was like, hey, nobody really does it like this. You know what I mean? And so like, I was like, this is unique. Let's take a shot. You know what I'm saying? And it played. It worked. So like, just having something different, finding a niche in any, large crowded space is daunting enough. But if you're fortunate enough to find a niche, go for it. And you're not gonna own the whole joint, you know what I mean? But I'll take my niche and keep it bussing, because like I mean, the space is so large. It's plenty of room to make something of yourself.
Now, I will say I have had Highway Vodka, probably too much Highway Vodka, because it does taste good. And I'm not someone who drinks vodka anymore,
Mhm.
because I agree, like, who drinks vodka neat, it does
Right,
burn.
right.
And you can drink, I think I just have vodka sodas when I drink Highway. I'm not trying to
Mhm.
mix a cocktail
Exactly,
because it tastes.
exactly.
Now, where can we get Highway Vodka? I know it's on Reserve Bar.
Yeah.
And I know they're pouring it at Lucille's in Houston. Are there
Mhm.
other bars in Houston that are pouring
Oh,
Highway?
oh yeah. No, it's in Houston alone. I don't know. It's like 700 different places. It's all over Texas. Total Wine, Specs. The bigger stores. It's in Georgia right now, Southern California, Southern Florida. So yeah, no, it's not. It's not just you know at the crib. You know what I mean? Like it's thankfully it's all over Texas, and this year with our new partnership, it's going to be in your brick and mortar, your stores all over the country. So
Awesome. Awesome.
yeah,
Now,
crazy.
how long did it take to go from getting your permit to getting that wider distribution, even just, in Total Wine and Specs in Texas, to then branching out to other states? What was that process like, and how long did it take?
Man. So the biggest thing, it's very hard to get distribution, right? And again, I think the only reason we got distribution is because we have a different product, right? And uniquely packaged, So all those factors come together to make the people just kind of like, oh. So the funny thing is I got turned down. So after I got the permit, now mind you, at the time, I was curating relationships with various distributors while I'm waiting on this permit. And people are like, yeah, whenever you get it, let's go, whatever, right? Yeah, and because I'm a customer on the other side, and on the retail side, basically. So I guess they're just telling me whatever I wanted to hear. But finally, get my permit, have set a meeting with some of these people that had promised me X, Y, or Z, and they go to tell me, yeah, no, it's not gonna happen, blah blah blah. We're not interested, or this company doesn't want anything to do that's remotely related to the cannabis space and stuff like that. And so I was just like, dang. And then one guy, he just really tried to crap on my dreams and say, yeah, it's not going to happen. Just get a broker. And kind of like, as you said, as you said earlier, and you could have it here and you could have it at Lucille's and you could, maybe one or two stores and play with your little. And I was like, okay, thanks. And so I went from that conversation, called a friend of mine just to rant. And he told me to call his buddy who worked at Silver Eagle just to see if he could point me in a different direction. Turns out Silver Eagle is like one of the largest beer distributors in the country. Um, they said they're converting to start carrying spirits. They said, hey, we'll take a look at it, right? Because they were wanting to get into spirits. So I met with them, hit them with the blind taste test that I was telling you about, against two other vodkas, won that unanimously. They picked us up. Boom, we're off and rolling with we're their baby. So and that's a big machine. So it was really fortunate how it worked out, and it also just is like that thing, like what did they say, like opportunity needs preparedness or whatever. So boom, we started rolling there. So now we're in Houston, and the cool thing was with Silver Eagle is like an industry leader, right? So as other beer houses in the state wanted to get into spirits, they're like, okay, who do you have? We'll start with your, who you guys working with. So I just got picked up around the state just like that. But then you talk about, so that's distribution, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean placement, right? So especially when you're talking about large chains like Total Wine and Specs, that came from, man, like pitching yourself, pitching the product. They can get you the meetings, but then you have to go. You have to go in there and sell it after that. So yeah, so you go in there and then you do your presentation, whatever, and then hopefully they give you a chance. Fortunately, they gave us a chance, and then see, this is what I'm saying. It never stops. So like you like, yay, we're in Total Wine. Yeah, but how do you stay in Total Wine? You know what I'm saying? Like, so then immediately you have to get to work on running demos, doing this, man. And I used to go everywhere personally, doing demos, the same thing, samplings and all these stories. I'd be standing there for hours, like, yo, okay. Whenever I had free time, basically I would just pack a bag and see if I could just walk into one of the stores and do a demo and stuff like that. I would show up anywhere with Highway Vodka. Like I'd sponsor a baby shower. I wouldn't care. Like, I'm serious. Like wherever somebody, like, I was like, yo, you know what I'm saying? I'm just trying to get it out there. Any kind of festival, anything that I was allowed to show up at, I would do to start, to get it out there. And so when you start doing that and you commit to working your product, and that's what's interesting, out of those thousands of dreams in there, not a lot of them do that. So they welcome you to do that, right? So they see you doing that. So then, and my numbers are going up. So next thing you know, boom, come holiday season, yo, I get offered to have like total end caps. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know how like you go in the store and at the end of the aisle, there's like, the shelves, Yeah, but that whole shelf with a big old Highway sign on top and the whole shelf, all my product. You know what I'm saying? That was so dope. Just to see. I mean, I was taking my kids in there. I was like, yo, you need to see this. You know what I'm saying? My mom, she's taking pictures in front of it and stuff. I mean, like, that was just such a moment because, this is just a little hobby. You know what I'm saying? And like my daughters, they used to get mad at me because like I'm sitting looking at my kitchen because I'm just remembering where I would be up there stirring a pot, making a mash, and then I forget something like, I don't have any yeast or whatever the deal is. I got to run over here. I was like, hey, girls, I want you to set this timer and I want you to come down here and stir this for 5 minutes every 10 minutes until I get back. And, they would be like, you know what I mean? Like, but they would do it. And I was like, see that stuff that y'all were just stirring in the kitchen reluctantly? Look, here it is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so like, I mean, that, man, but again, so then you celebrate that moment. But if you stop, all the stuff you did to get there, it's gone.
Right.
Like that. And so, and I got a rude awakening. When I had that meeting that I was just telling you about, I was going in there because I got called into the principal's office, basically. I went hard on the fourth quarter doing a bunch of sampling and stuff like that. But in this transition period that I am with this new arrangement, it's a lot of scaling up. We have to do, like, I built on an additional 8,000 square feet onto my current facility, getting bigger equipment, all the stuff in preparation to make enough product to go national. So I got kind of lost in that. And I said, well, I went so hard on the fourth quarter here. It's dry January. It's always the slowest month of the year as far as that. So I'm gonna ease the gas and let me do this a little bit, right? Because I'm in this weird flux space. It's like a limbo as I'm, taking on this new investment and stuff. And so, which is new for me. I've never done investors ever since that Too Many Chiefs thing that I experienced, that I told you about before. We've always just been like, we just figure it out, But so 1 month. Now, mind you, I've been doing this stuff for years. Well, not years, like 2 years. But I've been consistent in my stuff. I take the brake off. I take the gas off 1 month. Boom. Hey, what's going on? Where have you been? Like, well, I mean, it's January. I'm trying to get some stuff together. Got this new thing going on. Yeah. Yeah, no. We've given you this, we've done that. You gotta, and I'm just like, dang, 1 month. You cannot stop. That's what's interesting. It's like a relationship. If you start off dating and you got date night every Friday and you're home by 5 every day, you can't stop that because that's what we expect of you. And then all of a sudden you miss that first Friday or two, It's like, or you come home at 10 instead of 5. Hey, what? Hey, what's happening? You know what I'm saying? It's like it's crazy, but so that was just a great lesson. I mean, like I was like, oh, okay. And who was I, to think that I could just chill on them. It's cool. I get back when I get back. Nah, you might come back and not see nothing. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like no, you can chill for sure. And that's back to the whole entrepreneur thing we were talking about before. You don't have to clock in, man. You can stay at the crib all day. It's cool. I don't know how you're gonna pay for that crib, but you can sit as long as you want. You know what I mean? So I just found that really interesting. Like, dang, you just can't take your foot off the gas, really. So that was a really interesting lesson right there.
So I'd love to hear a little bit about your operations, because obviously, you can't be both distilling and out marketing, and you obviously can't market 100% by yourself. So, tell us a little bit about like the Highway Vodka structure. You've taken on new partners, but, what are your operations looking like these days?
So basically, in the very, very beginning, it was exactly that. You know what I'm saying? Make it, make up a bunch of it, like just stay in the lab basically and make up an inventory and then go. And then when you have time, come back, make it. And then my partner too. So we're both doing both, like he'd be running the batch and then I would be running the batch, and then or he'd come behind me and do this and then, whatever, right? Along with our day jobs too at the time, and so we're doing all that. But now it's more like, so his daughter took interest in it, which is great. Cody. So she's like actually been running the still. So she's become like our lead distiller over the past year. Just about, is it almost, has it been a year? Just about. Yeah. And so Cody's been running the still, doing a great job. So she's actually like the youngest African-American woman probably that's a lead distiller in the country, to be honest, that actually makes stuff, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, so basically Cody is in there doing that day to day, you know what I mean? And then we have different people that we brought on, like in the contract kind of basis. You have PR people, you have people to help what do you call it? Like, just that run programs and stuff like that and help you develop that and help you liaison with your distributors and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, we're starting to get a little nice team together. And then but it's still very small, you know what I'm saying? Because it ain't, whatever yet. But now with this new partnership that I'm just so excited, and I can't really talk a lot about it just yet, but like it's one of those moments where like, and anybody that's watching this as an entrepreneur knows this moment. It's like, you're doing your thing and then you're just like, man, if I only had this, or if I had that, I could do this. You know what I mean? And now with this new partnership, it's kind of like I had all those excuses. That's basically what I call them, are gone. Like I have access to all the tools I ever said, if I only had, we could. You know what I mean? That's scary as what, right? Because now all that's been taken away. Now let's really see what you're gonna do. You know what I'm saying? Like okay, fine. So you need this. Okay, here you go. You need that. Okay, now what's up? What you gonna do? You know what I mean? And that's kind of daunting a little bit. It's like, oh, okay, but it's exciting too, because finally, because I stepped into these waters, I had no idea how deep it is. You know what I'm saying? Like this game, and like I think I told you before, Fawn Weaver is like the only quasi mentor that I've had, you know what I'm saying, in the space as somebody to go to and talk to about just what to do. And yeah, man, I had no idea, but like now I'm equipped and I know that my product is dope. And so like I know it's on, but I have to execute, we have to execute. And so, but it's still great. It's a good problem, right? Like, let's do it. So
Right.
yeah, it's dope.
That's awesome. I should say Fawn Weaver is of Uncle Nearest, which, most people know what Uncle Nearest is and love it. Now, I know we originally talked about y'all branching out into a whiskey as well. Are you still planning to branch out into whiskey? What else is next for Highway?
So really the focus right now is, just being able to make enough product to place it nationally. You know what I mean? Like that. So, but what's ill is, and I don't think it was ready when I met you that time, but like the whiskey that we were preparing matured, to where we wanted it to be or whatever. So we pulled some, I gave it out as like Christmas gifts, which was dope. And like people really loved it, And so I talked to, some folks, and we were actually, but see, the challenge is, because we really like to make all our stuff, is making enough, because whiskey is a whole nother, I mean, it's expensive, the process, right? Like, those barrels are like anywhere from $500 to $800 each. You got to have a ton of them. They're only 53 gallons. And then you got to let that joint sit for like a year and a half, 2 years. You know what I mean? So like, but what we have enough. We were thinking about doing like a very limited exclusive run of it, just to see, just to like, just because it is a really good product, and I stand by, I believe in it. I love it. I love the way it tastes. And not just me, but I go to the people that would love to tell you that it tastes like crap just to see, you know what I'm saying? Like, you got to go there. And so they could just be like, nah, nah. Or they could, if they'd be like, yo, for real, it's dope, And so like that, yeah, so that's that part. I want to do it, but it'll be very limited because I got to do it authentically, and I don't want to, source any part of it. I want to make my own. And like I said, and I've talked to some of the chains that they would be interested in doing like an exclusive thing, locally, stuff like that. So that's probably that. But right now, it's Highway, man. Like, we about to like, it's all about just going and trying to get on all the shelves,
Awesome.
first, and then we'll get back around to that.
Now, you'll love to hear this. I actually was talking to a restaurant owner in DC who is like, who already knew about the vodka, is planning to, is planning to mix drinks with it and everything when he can, get it up here. So I think, the word is definitely out. So I'm excited about y'all. Yeah.
That's crazy.
I know. I was just like, yeah, have you heard of Highway? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, okay. So, because he only pours Black owned spirits. And so I was listing the ones I knew about, and he definitely already knew about y'all. So the word is out there. And I think Reserve Bar helps. I keep plugging that. You can get it nationally on Reserve Bar. Now, just one more thing about distribution. You mentioned already that, hemp does not have THC. Marijuana does have THC, and that's the biggest difference. So the question is, do you get high drinking Highway vodka? No, because it does not have THC, which I think we have to keep reiterating for folks, because people really don't understand the difference.
I know, man. And honestly, sometimes, but you know what? It's funny. So I get invited a lot to speak at these, conferences, cannabis conferences and hemp conferences and all this kind of stuff. Doing one in Denver, or is it Denver, or it's Colorado somewhere? Yeah, it gotta be Denver. Later this month, as a matter of fact. But it's like, I mean, I get it. I'm not blind to the fact that, even with our packaging, it is there to kind of give that mystique of what, what's up. Like, I'll never forget back in the day, and I think we're getting short on time, so I won't go into that story. But like, yeah, that's the biggest question I always get is, will I pass my drug test? Of course. We're standing in Total Wine. I can't sell you in Texas, for instance. I can't sell you weed. I mean, I'm not, and it's not like I'm out in the parking lot, out the trunk, then I can see you questioning me. Nah, it's right there. It's on the shelf, bro. You know what I mean? So like, but yeah, no. So no, to answer your question, no. And further than that, there's no CBD. That's illegal. You can't create, in the spirits side of things, you can't package spirits with CBD. That's why Highway's in fluorescent glass too, to kill any trace clear glass, so that fluorescent lighting makes sure that all, any remnant CBD stuff is gone, but there is none in there. But yeah, so it's not about CBD, it's not about getting high. It's about what the plant does for the process of the spirit that we like to make. That's it. And the flavors that it allows to come through, and the viscosity in the body, and knocking off that burn, and then helping us with creating a spirit that when you only collect the hearts and stuff like that, you could actually overdo it a little bit, and won't feel as bad in the morning. That kind of thing has nothing to do with getting high or none of that stuff, but I get it, what I'm saying? And it's by design, and that's cool.
Right.
But it's that differentiating factor that we, at least it gets you talking, right?
Right. But I think, it kind of works both ways, where some folks are looking for the alcohol that also gets them high, and some people are concerned about passing the drug test. Now, one thing we did talk about earlier, though, was I believe you mentioned in our last conversation about how you weren't a fan of, some of the alcohols that have the marijuana infused, in part because of the effect of it and like the flavoring and things like that. So if you could just explain, kind of the distinction between Highway and some of these other marijuana infused alcohols, and like the flavoring and the feel.
Yeah. So basically that was not, first of all, the products that I was mentioning at that time, they weren't commercially, those are just people's, crib projects kind of things. I didn't like it because I didn't like it. It was like a bipolar buzz. I mean, you don't know if you want to chill or fight, or, it was just too much going on, when you just blend it like that for me, so I'm not really a fan personally, just because of what I find is the only other products that, and there might be some good ones out there, I'm sure there are, but just the ones that I've tasted, like the beers and the stuff like that do have stuff in it. One thing I see is that people, it's like they want you to know so much that there is this in it, that it steers the flavor profile in that way. So they're very intent on, being very forward with terpenes and stuff like that give you the scent. Like when you're drinking it, like it smells like, some bomb, and then but it also tastes like some bomb. You know what I mean? Like blended up or something. And so for me, I just don't like it. You know what I'm saying? Whatever. I just don't like I don't have no problem with one or the other. I don't like blending the two, so that's just me. Yeah. And and maybe I just haven't tasted the right one, or whatever. And I'm sure there's some cool stuff out there. I got to keep saying that because I'm not trying to diss, but like, I just, it's just, nah. But as far as Highway goes, it has nothing to do with any of that. It's all about what that plant does for the process of making our product that I explained earlier,
And I would say Highway Vodka just tastes like vodka without, the burn, and without, I think the reason why so many of us kind of switch over to different kinds of liquors as we get older is you kind of get tired of just tasting alcohol and having your throat burn, and,
Right.
all the stuff you don't care about when you're 21 and will drink Everclear. And like, I feel like Highway is a vodka for adults. It's a vodka that, you can mix your cocktail. You're not going to have a hangover. It doesn't taste like lighter fluid or feel like lighter fluid. It's not about taking the shots and being 21. It's, it's the vodka for adults. It's how I would describe it.
Yeah. And you can actually sip it. I mean, that's what's cool about it. Like I said, it was geared towards the palate of people that were testing me, and they wanted to test it neat and stuff like that. So it's geared to pass that test. And not a lot of vodkas can pass that kind of test, where it has its own character and stuff like that. And it's cool. You could actually sit there and sip it. Like I've seen people like sip it, like, how like they'll take their whiskey neat. I've seen people, I've rolled up into spots and they just have it sitting there like, a little rocks glass, just like that, just chilling. One lady, I'll never forget, she told me, it drinks like a wine. I was like, dang, that's pretty dope. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, yeah, so it is very much that. And I'm very, 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 as you could probably tell, proud of it. Because I mean, I know that I'll put it up against anything, like, let's go. That's how I got here, is taste testing. So who? Let's you know what I'm saying? Like, let's go. I'm with it,
Yeah.
because I know what's up.
All right, so we've only got a few more minutes, and what I would like to end with is, do you have advice for other entrepreneurs? If you could go back in time and give yourself advice, when you first started, just venturing out to all your businesses, like what would you say to yourself?
Ooh, that's a toughie. I would say, man, that's a good one. I would probably say, I don't know. What would I say? I don't know. Like, well, the advice that I would just give, I don't know what I would say to myself other than probably just go a little harder than you did. You know what I'm saying? But like, the one thing I would just say to entrepreneurs in general, I was just having this conversation yesterday with these young ladies that had this great idea. And I was like, man, if you love it, and it's the kind of idea that wakes you up, because that's how it works for me. It's like these things start in my head and they just won't go away. And I wake up in the middle of the night thinking about it, like, like it's here. And then, and if you have that kind of passion about it, man, I say go for it. You know what I'm saying? But if it's not that, and he's just like, I'm gonna flip some money like this, nah, just go to the stock market or buy a house and lease it out or something. Don't you dare, come into any other kind of space, without the passion behind it, because without that, you're done before you even started, because it's hard and it takes a lot of time. And I've learned a lot of expensive lessons along the way, because that's the only way you learn them, is by trial by fire, especially in this industry, particularly. My God. So, I mean, like, if it weren't for the passion there have been so many times where it is like, this, forget this. You know what I mean? Like, this is too hard. You know what I'm saying? Like, where it could have been that, but you just be like, I'm gonna figure that out. And then you get to the next one, you're like, man, you know what? I'm done. Well, let me just see what's up. You know what I mean? And stuff like that. So without that passion and really belief, oh man, you get knocked out in a minute. You know what I'm saying? So if you don't have that, and but what I would just tell myself, my younger self, is, man, I just wish that I would have. I can't say that though, because like then you're talking about, taking away time from your family and your kids. I don't know. I'm sorry I didn't have a good answer for that. I had to think
Oh, no,
on
that's
that.
fine. That's fine. I like the idea of being passionate and make sure you go hard enough. That's great.
Yeah.
All right. So I just want to thank Ben today, and thank you all for tuning in to Getting Common. This has been great. This is exactly what I was hoping for with our entrepreneurship series. So thank you for being my first guest on it. If you ever miss an episode, you can catch the rebroadcast anywhere podcasts are streamed, or on the Voice America Network and on our YouTube channel. Feel free to reach out to us on the show page, or you can reach me on social media on all platforms. I am at Carliss C. Thank you for listening. And thank you again, Ben. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Appreciate it.